Welcome to a special edition of the Cabbage Patch. I'm Dad.
I'm Tommy. I'm Gus. And last night we watched Godzilla vs. Kong, the new one. Yeah, and it was awesome.
So,
Totally.
as a tribute to Godzilla vs. Kong,
Megalon killed Godzilla and Ghidorah.
we decided to
Before
play.
we show the box, before
Yeah.
we show it, we need to show these awesome figures.
We'll show the awesome figures after we show the box. We decided to play Godzilla. You gotta get it over in there so people can see it. Godzilla Tokyo Clash. And it's a game for 2 to 4 players, ages 10 and above. I've come from Funko Games. Don't forget that. From Funko Games. Came out, I think, last year.
We might play another game.
We might play another game of it. Another Funko. Oh, that's right. We do have another Funko game that is a lot of fun. This is a game of giant fighting monsters, right?
In this case, Godzilla.
In this case, Godzilla
No
and
Kong,
all.
though.
No Kong,
No
but
Guardian.
it does have Godzilla. It does have
Mothra.
King Ghidorah.
It has Mothra.
It has Mothra
And God.
and Megalon,
Who's a
Who-
mortal.
who
we
apparently is slightly
removing from
overpowered.
the game.
Who is apparently slightly overpowered.
Yes.
So it's got 4 classic Godzilla monsters,
Michael,
and
where's Gigan?
depending on I don't know,
He doesn't-
depending on
Gigan's
how
more
many
popular than
depending on how many players you have, the map changes. So this is a 3-player map, so it's in this sort of triangle configuration. 4-player map turns into an octagon. There's a 2-player map that's a little smaller. The object of the game is to, destroy
The city.
the city. And the city consists of all of these really cool building models. There's skyscrapers, there's military bases, there's radar installations, and there's power plants. And each of these city pieces has a number on the bottom of them. So in case the skyscraper's a 4, almost all the other buildings are 2, but some of them have special effects on them, right? Which we didn't destroy very many buildings in the game we just played. We just played the regular tiny buildings. That's the other thing. There's these tiny token buildings here that are also worth 2.
I think we're going to replace those.
This one, yeah, we might replace those with like Monopoly houses or something. This one is get 2 energy and I think it's discard 2 cards or take 2 cards from your discard pile. This is get 2 energy and draw a card. This is get 2 energy and look at your opponent, one of your opponent's top of your opponent's deck. So you go through this sort of fake Tokyo, and you blow up buildings, and you throw monsters around, and that's the whole game, right? So you play with a deck of cards, and the deck of cards have actions on them. The actions are enhancements that make your monster permanently better, or attacks, right? You can attack, and sometimes you can attack via range. Most of the attack cards are right there in the space that you're in, and the attacks do a certain amount of damage, or defend, right? So, and they each have energy values at the top of the cards. So if you look at King Ghidorah's cards here, you might be able to see that. In the upper right hand of the cards, there's these yellow numbers. That's how much, little yellow numbers rather, that's how much energy the card costs to play.
And don't look at Tommy's.
And don't look at Tommy's, because Tommy pretty much generates infinite energy. And then on each of the, I'm going to take the camera here, on each of the player cards,
There's these little box.
there's stop moving that. You've moved that out of the way, so now I can't see it. There we go. There we go. Is an energy tracker. So you put a little red cube on the tracker and move and keep track of your energy.
Depending on how many points you get, it could be from 2 to 12.
It could be from 0 to 12. So you use energy to play cards. You can play a card during your turn. You can take what they call your discard action, which is generally move or throw something.
With momentum, which means you can
Which
play
means you
another
can play another card if you move.
And if
right.
you discard 2 cards, I'm pretty sure you can throw somebody.
No, you can only discard 1 card. That's your discard action.
You can
Unless
keep
if your
discarding
unless your discard action is to move.
You can keep discarding.
You can keep discarding cards to keep moving. Absolutely. But you can't keep discarding cards, I don't think, to throw a vehicle. But maybe you can. Actually, I'm not entirely sure. We'll get to that when we get to the rules. We'll get to that when we get to the rules. Throw a monster, so you can throw other monsters around. You can pick up and throw in certain scenarios, have certain vehicles that are sort of around on the track. So this is a train. There's a where'd the tank go?
There's one right here.
There's a tank, right? So there's these tanks and trains that are moving around, and in with the tanks and the trains, they're mostly there to have something to throw, right?
And a source of energy when you're.
So when you pick up a tank or a train and you throw it, you get the energy that's on the underside of the token. In this case, it's 1 energy. When you destroy a building, you get its energy. When you pick up and throw a monster, you do damage to that monster. And the way you do damage to monsters is how?
Take cards away from them.
Right.
And
So
put them in your trophies.
Gus
Or throw them in the discard.
Gus does 2 damage to me, and he'll take 2 cards. And unless I can defend against it with a defensive card, he gets to keep those cards. And then he looks at them, and in the bottom corner here is a little crown number there, which
I got
is
2
the
ones.
which is the value
and if
that they are.
But to get like a 0, I just discard it.
Right.
So,
So if they have a trophy value, then you get to keep them on your trophy track, which is here. Right. So Gus was Godzilla, so he would have gotten 2 cards there. And at the end of the game, you count up how many trophies each player gets.
and speaking of trophies and points,
Right. We'll get to that in a second. So that's the basic of the game, right? So you're drawing cards and you're using those cards to move around, or you're
And
discarding
break
cards to
things.
move around, and you're breaking things. And basically, you're just destroying Tokyo. So also on this track here is the Oxygen Destroyer. Somebody move that around so they see what it is. So that's actually, it starts way back here, and each phase we play, it moves forward. So when we're done with the phase, it moves forward, and it stops when there are destroyed buildings in the way. So you destroy these. Okay, it's done. Thank you. You destroy these little tiny buildings, these little houses, these small buildings, and you play. Every time you destroy one, you put it on the track, and that's how you end the game. Because as soon as the Oxygen Destroyer encounters a bit where the houses are or the little buildings are,
it skips ahead.
the game's over. If there isn't a bit there, then it skips ahead. So the game is of a different length depending on how many players there are. So with 3 players, it starts
Here.
It starts here, but it ends here, where there's 3 players. So then you start placing those little buildings on there after you destroy them. And that's basically how you progress through the game and get it to end. Otherwise, it would go all night, right? So it's an awful lot of fun. It's pretty easy, although there are some slightly complicated rules.
And it takes from 30 to 40 minutes.
Yeah, so it's a good 45 minutes for 3 people. When we played this with 4 people before the pandemic, it took an hour and a half. But mostly that's because we didn't know what we were doing.
Yeah.
So now let's talk about the rules. What's an important rule to remember, Gus?
Don't get too frustrated.
Yeah. There's just rules for generally playing. I'm talking about the
Also-
game. What's an important rule to remember about the game?
Remember your card's special abilities, perhaps?
Well, I'll ask you in a second. So you kept running out of energy and trying to play cards.
Try to play cards with a 0.
Try to play cards with a 0? Sure. So you need to make sure you have enough energy to play the cards. It's an important rule that Gus kept forgetting because he kept trying to play cool cards, but he couldn't play them because he didn't have energy. How about you? What's an important rule for you to remember?
I have a couple, actually. 1, remember the ability scores on your cards.
Yeah.
2, if you need to discard a card and you have one that does exactly the same thing but has a higher value for like trophy rating.
Yeah.
Discard the higher trophy value.
All right. Well, that's kind of a strategy thing, not really a rule to
So
remember.
so your opponents don't get it.
Okay.
Also,
What about a
Megalon.
rule? What about also Megalon? What about Megalon?
If you want to win, just play.
That's not a rule either. I think important rules to remember are 1, keep track of your energy, right?
Yeah.
Keep track of your special abilities because they're either right here on your card. But also when
Keep
you're
track of your cards.
playing a card, it's really important to read the whole card.
Yeah.
Not all cards can do ranged damage.
Napalm shot that deals 1 damage, but it has a range of 3, and one small building or vehicle in the target kaiju's area is destroyed.
So read the cards carefully because they're pretty directly explaining what's supposed to happen. I also think that I forgot to keep track of how many heads King Ghidorah had.
I don't
And
believe
also,
you.
if you still don't understand what the codes do, just ask the person who knows how to play it.
Yeah, that's true. Well, this is a quasi-friendly game, even though it's competitive. So this is a competitive game. We're playing against each other. We're not playing with each other, right?
Yeah.
And somebody won. Who won?
Tommy.
Why did Tommy win?
Because he chose.
Because Megalon seems to have infinite amounts of energy,
And he's just overpowered in general.
and
Oh,
is
then
able.
he's
He
overpowered.
draws energy from bad guys, so it's really frustrating. One more rule to remember is things like the special vehicles, the special events that are on there. So we picked armored assault and rush hour, which is tanks and trains. When the tanks are on the board, they move towards the kaiju, and if they get too close to the kaiju, like this one right here is next to Godzilla,
They sap your
they
energy.
sap energy
per
from
tank.
from the
It's
from you.
basically like
One energy per tank.
One
is
energy
sapped
per tank.
per
So
tank
it's
in the space adjacent.
in
to
the space
Godzilla
adjacent to the
or
thing.
On the thing.
So I like a lot of things about this game. I like the fact that you build the map, and the map is somewhat random. So if you can see on the screen, there are these little hexagonal pieces. It actually was really frustrating to build the 4-player map when we did it last year, because we couldn't figure out exactly how the pieces went together because
by last
nobody
year,
could
do
keep
you
track
mean
of it.
2020 or 20?
I meant last year, or in 2020, before everything happened when we played this the first time, or the second time. I love the pieces. I think the pieces are awesome. I think almost all of the pieces in the game are fabulous. Like the big buildings are great.
Yeah.
The kaijus are, I think, spectacular. They're worth. If you're a Godzilla fan, I think they're worth buying the game just to have the monsters. The Mothra, even the Mothra figure is pretty cool, right? So you got 4
Even though it
classic
has that
kaijus.
Uncool looking.
Well, that's because it's flying. It's because she's flying, right? The if I were to upgrade the pieces here, I'd buy little Monopoly houses. Somebody suggested that on one of the forums that I visit to replace the houses. I'd buy trains from Ticket to Ride to replace the trains,
And also,
and I'd buy tanks from like Axis and Allies or something to replace the tanks. There's also
And also-
battleships and flying saucers as other events that you can get,
and
and
also
those are pretty
the
cool.
ouch that's going straight through her abdomen.
Yeah, so that's the way the model works. That's how you look like it's flying, because Mothra flies. Everything else, even King Ghidorah mostly is stomping around on the ground, right? So
The ouch, I must
so
say.
we've talked about the rules we need to remember. We've talked about
What
the models.
What things did we not like about
What
this
what didn't you like about this game other than it was too long? You got to come up.
I'd say it was too long, but this time it's frustrating.
It was just frustrating. Oh, it's frustrating because Megalon.
Also, you were attacking me as well.
Well, I was King Ghidorah and you're Godzilla. That was supposed to happen. What about you?
Just
What didn't you like? Anything?
Well, if I wasn't playing Megalon, someone else was.
That would be frustrating for you.
Yeah, because Megalon is just kind of.
Megalon seems to be overpowered, so we've decided that next time we will not play with Megalon.
Instead,
Tommy will be Mothra.
Yeah.
I think the balance. I think the Megalon is a little imbalanced, so that is a little frustrating.
yeah, he can get rid of your
Uh,
enhancements.
Otherwise, honestly, it goes pretty fast for what it is.
How many cabbages would we give this?
I haven't gotten there yet.
Cap-
I'm still thinking about what I didn't
And
like.
one of
There's not much I
Megalon's-
didn't like.
One of Megalon's attacks, if not fully blocked, destroys all of your enhancements, which are usually permanent, unless
Right.
it says discard this card to do.
So some cards
X.
let you permanently modify your monster for the duration of the game. So Megalon I think is a little OP. So that's I think the only thing I don't like about the game is Megalon is a little imbalanced. I think that King Ghidorah and Godzilla feel like they should be easier to play, and maybe we were doing something wrong. But that's really the only thing. Otherwise, I think it's a really cool game, and I think it's a lot more fun than when we played Kaiju Crusher King of Tokyo. But we're going to play those again just in case, because I don't remember because those are supposed to also both be very fun. I guess that brings us to the review. How many cabbages would you give it, Gus?
I think it deserves at least a 2.5.
You think it's a 2? You give it 2 or 3. How many cabbages are you give it?
2.5.
Okay. How many cabbages are you going to give it?
2. We need a better rating system.
We need a better rating system. I think you might be right. I think I'm going to have to give it a 2 as well. because it's a solid game. I really do. I might give it a 3. You know why? Because I really want to keep getting it back out and playing it again, and so we can figure out all of the little details there, and maybe play some more of the scenarios.
And
So
maybe-
I am actually going to give it a 3 because I want to play
I'm
this
giving
game
it a
again.
2.5 because Godzilla is still my favorite game.
Okay.
And also Megalon.
Yeah, and also Megalon. So yeah, maybe we'll come up with a better rating system. But right now it's gotten a 2 plus a 2
Maybe in the future we'll go
which is
with
4
1
plus a
out of
3 is a
10.
7. So 7 cabbages, right? Yeah, and maybe we'll go back to a regular 10-point scale. I thought it was fun to do 3, 3, 3, a 9-point scale. All right, well that's it, right?
But you can't really reach like an even number with a 9-point scale.
That's true. Any other thoughts on the game?
Megalon.
Megalon, yeah. Oh, there was one other thing. Yeah, you got more
King of
trophies and more
Monsters.
hands. So whenever a character attacks another character, they become the king of the monsters, and that gives them more cards in
Well,
their hand.
If the character
And more
attacks
victory points
the
at
king
the
of the
end.
I
monsters,
didn't really show on the camera. That's
if a
why I-
character
It didn't really show. It's all right. Don't worry about
if
it.
the character who
It-
attacks the character who plays the king of the monsters
Right.
card, or
So
successful
whoever's
hits-
winning the game is actually winning the game because they get extra stuff. All right. Well, in that case,
And
I
if
think
you're
we've got.
wondering- If you're wondering what the king
We've-
thing looks like, it's basically just a mirrored crown.
Yeah, it's just a mirror crown. We have here, let's put that there. There's too much light there, so we're not going to do that. Don't worry about it.
Yeah.
All right, so it's got 7 cabbages. We liked it. We're going to play it again because we like playing it.
Yeah.
All right, I think that's it. Do you want to do the outro?
If any cabbages, subscribe, like, and hit that bell, but don't eat us, please.
Well, that was-
We'll be able to bring better videos.
Doing better videos. So thank you all for watching.
And
Subscribe to the channel, please, and go watch Godzilla versus Kong. Right?
Yeah.